The purpose of this article is that it addresses the portrayal of race and ethnicity in crime-related news sources, focusing on African Americans, Latinos, and whites. It explores how ethnic blame discourse and structural limitations in media influences these representations and their potential effects on intergroup relations and stereotypes. The article looks at how TV news shows African Americans, Latinos, and whites in crime-related roles. It focuses on how stereotypes in news production limits shape these portrayals. While earlier studies show African Americans are often overrepresented as criminals, this study also looks at Latinos and finds that they are underrepresented in unique ways. It also explores how news practices, like using official sources and dramatic visuals, impact these patterns. The hypothesis is that the authors expected that African Americans and Latinos would appear as criminals more often than whites, while whites would be shown more often as police officers. They also thought that stereotypes and news production limits would influence these patterns, that Latinos would be portrayed differently than African Americans.
Our methods for data collection was content analysis of local TV news from major US cities. Our variables measured were for the independent variable was the racial slash ethnic identity of individuals shown as criminals or officers. The dependent variable was on how often each group appeared in crime and law enforcement roles. The analysis came along with intergroup comparisons, inter-role comparisons, and inter-reality comparisons, versus which is just media versus real-world data. Here we've got the graph. This is what we put together. You have race on the left, the arrest rate, the percentage of that placed on as perpetrators on TV. You can see that although black people are pretty much have the same rate as white people when it comes to being perpetrators, they are shown almost double what they should be if you actually followed it. As it says over to the right, one of the tables from the article compares the percentage of racial groups in crime-related roles in media with the actual demographics and the actual facts as they are in real life. Unfortunately, the media tends to be biased. This is something we have to deal with, and we have to combat with our own intelligence and our own research. Sorry. All right. I chose.
Next up, the authors concluded that both ethnic blame and structural limitations affect how races are portrayed in crime-related news. African Americans are overrepresented as criminals due to ethnic blame, while Latinos are underrepresented because of barriers like language and culture. Whites are mostly shown as law enforcement due to their higher positions in the police force. And finally, our conclusion. The study shows how media helps reinforce racial stereotypes and biases. It's important to address these portrayals to reduce fear and prejudice against minority groups. Future research should look at how these depictions affect how people view different groups and interact with each other.
My meme depicts a monument that is labeled racism. There's a person riding a horse on top of the monument. Two people are standing in front of the monument. One of them saying, I had a feeling toppling this monument is going to be a lot harder. The lower half of the monument shows that the foundation roots deeply underground, which shows from the skeleton labeled 1619. The main message of this cartoon is that people are trying to solve racism to this day, but it's so difficult due to it being rooted into our culture for centuries.
Depicts a smaller and older statue named Old Racist History being torn down, while the massive pedestal of systemic racism can be seen in the right of the image, much larger than the history itself. This is commenting on how, while yes, we are starting to get rid of direct racism, the harder and more ingrained stuff to get rid of, which is systemic racism, which oftentimes isn't even taught. Many times it's not intentional. It's maybe something as simple as hiring a Hispanic team to do a construction role over an African American or mixed race team just for the hell, just because you felt like it. Maybe it's because you're so used to seeing Hispanics in doing construction that you're just like they'll do it right. That's the type of thing that systemic racism is. It's not. It is a problem, yes, but it's also really hard to combat.
And this is my political cartoon. This cartoon shows a robbery where a black masked man is robbing a white woman. And the white woman yells, "Help, somebody call 911," while the robber says, "Good luck with that lady, we've defunded the police." This cartoon reinforces racial stereotypes by linking people of color to crime, promoting fear and prejudice against these minority groups. The media plays a role in shaping these biases, which can influence how people view and interact with different communities. Addressing these portrayals is crucial to reducing fear and fostering great understanding, while future research should examine their broader impact on societal attitudes and relationships.